Good afternoon, I'm Grace Gardner. I'm from London Borough of Hendon, and we're going to show you expedition cooking tonight. Simple 6-ingredient soup for tonight. Spicy coconut noodle soup. Sounds absolutely awesome. I haven't actually tried this one before, but I love all the ingredients, so let's go for it. Right, I hope you can see this. We have 6 simple ingredients, as you see. We've got bean shoots, spring onions and mushrooms. We also have some coconut milk, some fat noodles and some curry paste. So first thing to do is we need to put the mushrooms and onions on with a little bit of cooking oil. So literally just a dribble to stop it from burning. And we are going to turn on the cut the vegetables up and then turn on the trangia. So spring onions, you don't have to eat the green bits if you don't want to, but they're as tasty as the white bits. The only thing you need to do is take off the outside layers in case there's any dirt or anything ingrained. So basically, you just line them up, trim off the tops, and then slice. These make a nice colourful addition, even into salads, because they're not quite as strong as normal onions, and they, as I say, bring a bit of colour. You can get red spring onions. I haven't actually seen them in the shops, but I have heard that they are around. So you literally just cut down to just above the roots. Obviously you don't eat the rooty bits. Apparently, if you leave them about 2 or 3 inches long, you can actually plant these and they'll actually grow again. So you end up with more spring onions. That could be interesting. So we're going to pop these spring onions into the lightly oiled pan. If you've gone on expedition, obviously you can chop all this stuff up previous, chuck it in a polythene bag, and then take it with you. You don't have to carry chopping boards and stuff with you on expedition if you don't want to. So, the only other thing we have to cut up is the mushrooms. You shouldn't actually wash mushrooms. Just if there's any dark stuff on it which is the growing medium, you just get a tissue and you wipe it off or pull it off. You don't need to wash them. If you wash them, they absorb water, make everything quite soggy. So I'm just going to slice them up into small pieces. Because it's a soup, everything goes small. Mind your fingers. So I cut it in lots of little slices that way. So when I do it this way, ta-da! Lots of little bits. Again, mind your fingers. So I'm going to chop them in there. You only need actually 2 mushrooms for this, but I like mushrooms, so I put in 3. It's only supposed to be 50 grams, but I love mushrooms, so we're having mushrooms. And if you hold them together, you're not struggling all the time trying to do individual bits. And again, just watch your fingers on the last cut. Bean shoots will go in a minute. So we've got the mushrooms and the onions, and we're now going to put that on the trangia, which is going to be lit. Here we go. I will come back to the chopping board in a second, but if I keep flipping the camera around, it makes it a bit confusing. Just give us a second. Right, so we're now going to put that on the trangia to start heating up. Remember to always not to leave a trangia unattended. Now, this can is a bit big. I'm only going to use half of this. My trusty cup. Always give coconut milk a good shake before you serve it, because as you can see, there is solids and you don't want to lose those, because that's the yummy bit. I only need half this. Don't worry that it's a bit lumpy, it will even out. So, lift it up so you can see what's happening. Right, as I say, have the trangia. Don't leave a trangia that's lit unattended. So we're just going to cook these until they're just nice and soft. And then we're going to add the coconut milk and everything else. That's what I like about this one pot cooking. It's basically just chop and chuck, as I once said to one of my pupils. So we've got the onions and the mushrooms in there, a little bit of oil. Going to then add coconut milk and half this tub of curry sauce, which is 1 in a pack of this. You can pick ordinary straight red curry paste or whatever, entirely up to you. It's your taste preference, it's your person to eat it. I do always suggest to my pupils, young people, even the adults, try the recipe at home before you take it on expedition. There's nothing worse than having a meal that you don't like, that you have to eat because it's all you got. So try it at home before you take it on expedition to make sure it's the stuff that you like. So in goes the coconut milk. The lumps do sort themselves out, don't worry. And I'm only going to put in half this tub because this is for a meal for 4. So just a little bit of this. So that's about half the tub. Stir that in. Give the whole kit and caboodle a good stir. As you see, it looks really, really yummy. So we're going to add in the bean shoots at this stage because they also need to soften up. And because mushrooms cook, let me just move the camera closer. There we go. And because mushrooms cook really quickly, the whole thing doesn't take too long. So I hope you can read the ingredients there. If not, please pause and expand your camera. So this is only 50 grams of bean shoots. This is about a quarter of a pack of a normal pack of bean shoots. So don't forget, this is for 2 people in here, and you can always double it up or add more if you want more. So they go in to soften up. Then the only ingredient missing is the green chilli, because I personally do not like chilli. So add it if you wish it. It's entirely up to you, but this looks yummy already. So once that starts bubbling, I'm going to drop in the noodles. So we just need to let that heat up a bit. On camp, don't leave your spoon on the grass. Always use, oops, sorry about that. You always use the lid as a tray to put any bits on there. You don't use them in the grass or wherever you're camping. And always take your rubbish home or put it in the appropriate bin. There's nothing worse than arriving at a campsite to put your tent up and you find food wrappers or empty tins and stuff floating around. It's not nice. As I say, the mushrooms and the onions, because they are cut small, will not take long. So while one person is cooking this, if the rest of your team members are putting up the tent or something, by the time they finish putting the tent up and putting their gear inside, this should be ready to eat. That's now boiling away nicely. Everything's nice and tender. The bean shoots have softened up. I'm now going to add 1/2 of a packet of this stuff. This comes in 2 packets, but we're only going to use 1. Also, it comes in a little sachet, so you can actually chuck that in the trangier rather than trying to put it in your rucksack on its own. So that's going into the food, but not literally, I hope. Again, give it a good stir. Because they're partly cooked, they don't take too long, and you don't have to rinse them, and you don't have to wash them off. So a little bit lumpy for a soup, but that's what it's called. I would call it broth rather than a soup. So, going over it, we put the mushrooms and the spring onions in a little spot of oil. We've fried them off till they're just about cooked, and then we put in the 200 mils of coconut milk. We've then warmed that up until it started bubbling. We put in the bean shoots, and then we put in the noodles. And that's it. We just have to wait for it to finish cooking now. And I know you can't smell on TV, but this smells absolutely beautiful. So this has enough calories that you should be fine. You wouldn't need much else, of course, unless you want extra sweet or something like that. If you want pudding, take pudding by all means. The whole point of camping is it's supposed to be an enjoyable experience and not an ordeal. I think our leaders' favourites when we get together and doing our meal, wait for the young people to finish theirs, is custard and cake. So I'm just stirring gently to stop it burning on the bottom. And letting those noodles swell up and become totally yummy. The cooking oil you could actually put in with the spring onions. So once you've chopped the onions up and put them in a plastic bag, there's nothing to stop you putting a little bit of oil in there. Just make sure you give it a good shake out when you put it in the pot afterwards. The mushrooms, you can either cut on camp or pre-cut, and then you can put them in with the onions and the oil. The noodles are separate, and the bean shoots usually tend to be separate, but there's nothing stopping you putting everything in the plastic bag and then dropping it in the top of the trangier. So all you have to do is tip it up and eat it, or heat and eat. So it looks like it's just everything's thickening up. That's one thing with using the coconut oil rather than water, is it turns into a nice creamy soup. As long as you stir it to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom, there's not much preparation you need for this dish. All my recipes that I've picked out, I've tried to use only a little bit of preparation, no fancy stages, just simple ingredients, very popular ingredients. And also, this is a very good vegetarian dish because there's no cow milk or anything like that in there. So it's probably vegan as well as vegetarian. I'll have to check though, because I'm not sure what's in the noodles. Obviously, if you want to add meat of some sort of at this stage, you're more than welcome to. It's your food. But this coconut and the noodles and the bean shoots look really, really nice, and it smells awesome. One thing about taking stuff for expedition is how you're going to carry it. So these packs of noodles, they don't need to be stored in the fridge. They're normally stored in a cupboard. When you go to the supermarket shelves, it's on the supermarket shelf, not in a refrigerated area. So that will exist in your rucksack for 2 days if you're a gold. So, and it's like, that'll feed 2 people quite easily, unless you're really hungry. But an extra pack of those means if you are hungry, you just put in more noodles and spread it out between you guys. Right, that is really thickened up. I don't know if you can see it from there. I'll show you. So that is really, you can see how much fatter the noodles have become. So I think that is quite done. I am going to turn the cooker off. And then I'm going to eat. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the recipe, and please let me know if you try it. Thank you. Bye.